it's me, Crystal. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make this super cute reversible striped beanie that is striped on one side and then just plain on the other side. So you have options. You can either wear it with the stripes or you can wear it with the solid color. And you can make this beanie on any circular knitting machine. I have a Jamit, which is like a Sentro knockoff, or you can also use the Addi. Just need to be 48 pins. Let's get started. For this hat, I'm using 3 different colors of yarn, and this is Big Twist Value from Joann. I'm using the colors Cream, Camel, and then Toffee. And if you can do a center pull, I recommend it. It will make this a lot easier. So I'm pulling my yarn out, and then here's my white starting peg. I'm gonna start there. You just loop your yarn around that starting peg and I leave a little bit of a tail. And then you're going to go back and forth around each of the little pegs. All the way around. You're going to go slow and just go back and forth until you get all the way back to the beginning. Once you get back to your starting peg, we're going to go around that last one. And then I like to make sure the yarn goes under that little plastic divider. And then you're going to feed your yarn into the yarn feeder and put it in that center tension hole. That seems to work good for this yarn. And then we're ready to go ahead and start our first row. So we're going to slowly do the first few rows. That way nothing weird happens, no stitches fall off or get dropped or anything strange. But you're going to go ahead and do this for 5 rows. What we're going to do is 9 sections with different colors, and they're going to have 5 rows each for our stripes. So we're going to go ahead and finish up the first 5 rows, which I'm about to get to the end of the 5th one. And you're going to stop right when you pass the white peg. And then you're going to cut your yarn and you're going to leave a tail. It's probably 10 to 12 inches long. It might be too long, but I like to have a little extra just in case. And you're just going to put that into the center and make sure it's hooked around that white peg. Then you're going to grab your next color. In this case, I'm using the camel one. Insert it into the feeder and into the tension slot. And then you're just going to make sure you have about the same length tail. And you're going to pinch the 2 pieces of yarn together right here. Make sure you hold them together as you crank. And this will keep it from dropping a stitch here as you change the color. So just keep a hold of it and turn a little bit. And then I like to just tie a half knot with these 2 ends just to make me feel better. Don't really know that that's necessary. And then once you get that tied, just to secure it a little bit, continue cranking along, and you're going to do 5 rows with this color. I just like to make sure the ends are kind of out of the way, and then just continue cranking. And now we're going to do another color change, so go just past that white peg again, cut your yarn, put it in the middle, and grab your next color, and do the same thing, and just make sure you pinch the 2 ends together right next to the hooks before you start cranking, and that will keep you from dropping a stitch right there. And just tie in the ends together in a loose knot. And then continue on and do 5 more rows with this color. And then you're just going to repeat this. We're going to do 9 stripes all together. So you'll have 45 rows by the time you finish your stripe section. Each stripe just has 5 rows in it. So you just keep alternating your colors. And of course you can use whatever colors you want, but just continue on, making sure you hold the yarn ends together when you do your color change. Because if you don't, you can have a dropped stitch there, which is no fun. And then just continue on. All right, I got to my last stripe row and I'm just cutting that yarn and putting it in the middle. And now I'm grabbing the toffee yarn because I'm going to complete the rest of the hat with that color. Again, doing my color change, holding on to the yarn end. Tie that together. And then for the next 95 rows, we're just using this color, so no more color changes. And I am going to use my electric screwdriver with my little adapter for this part, which is quite handy and much faster. Now, if you decide to do that, just be careful you don't hurt your machine. I'm using an electric screwdriver and not a drill, which is what they recommend. Whenever you get to the point that your hat is touching the table that you're working on, you just go ahead and roll it up to keep it from getting all twisted down there. But just roll it, and this will help the stitches kind of lay better too, I think. Kind of adds a little more weight to your hat. And then just continue on. Once you get to the end and you stop at 140 rows, and this is where I realized I went one row too far. So if you accidentally add an extra row, it's not the end of the world. Your hat will just be slightly longer. But once you get to your 140 rows, you're going to get all the way back to that white peg and go just past it and then stop. And then you're going to cut your yarn and leave maybe a little longer of a tail this time. I'd say maybe a foot long. It really doesn't have to be super long. And then just put that in the center. You're just going to lay it right down in there and make sure it's hooked around that white peg. And then you're going to do one row almost all the way around, just with no yarn in your feeder. And my suction cups weren't stuck to my desk, so it was moving all around. But you're going to stop before you get all the way around, because otherwise they'll start dropping off the pegs. And then you're going to feed that end onto your yarn needle. And you see where it's coming out there, the first peg. You're just going to crank a little bit more. Make sure that one is up. And then stop before the next one comes up, the one to the left of the white peg. And you're going to just grab that loop with your yarn needle. And I like to put my finger on top of the next one before I pull up the one that I'm pulling up, just because otherwise they can start popping off on you if you're not careful. And then it's just not very much fun to deal with. So you're just going to continue going around, hooking each little loop onto your yarn needle and pulling it through until you get all the way back around to the other side. And then the last few, you're going to have to crank the machine a little bit to get them off of the hooks. But just take it slow and do just one at a time so you don't drop any stitches or have any disasters. I get this one, and then the last one kind of got hooked back around, so I'm going to back up a little bit and grab that last loop. And there we go. Then you can just move your knitting machine aside or move to a different table, whatever you prefer. And now we're going to unroll it and see what we have. So you'll notice at first that the stripes have kind of this jog in them from where we color changed, but we're going to fix that. So you're going to turn your hat inside out. And all we have to do to fix that is tie these knots where we color change. Just pull them a little bit and then just tie a knot. Now don't pull super crazy tight. You don't want it to look puckered on the front, but you do want to give it a pretty good little tug to pull the two ends of the yarn together so it kind of gets rid of that jog. And you'll see it looks much better now. So just go ahead and do that for each of the color changes. And once you get them all tied, you can go ahead and trim off the excess yarn from those. I left about an inch, maybe inch and a half. It's just going to be inside the hat, so you won't see it. But make sure you don't accidentally cut the yarn tails that you're going to be using to cinch up the ends of your hat. Then we're going to flip it back right side out. And now we're going to put our arm into the tube and bring the one side over to the other side. So it's like folded in half. and both ends are on the same side. Once you get it folded in half and everything's lined up, we're going to first cinch up the inside end. And so just find the end of the yarn and you're going to pull it to cinch up that end. And I'm always careful not to pull too hard because, you know, yarn can break if you're not careful. Usually acrylic yarn's pretty strong, but just, you don't want it to break. That's not a good thing to have happen. So pull it pretty good. And then what I like to do is thread the end onto my yarn needle, and then I go around through all of the stitches that are going around the hole and just feed the yarn through it one more time. And make sure you're going in the same direction as the yarn is already going through, so you're not like backing up and undoing the stitches, if that makes sense. And then you're going to pull it closed and tie a knot to finish that end off. Pull that real good and tight, and then that one is done. So you're just going to leave that yarn kind of sticking out of that hole. Now we're going to do the other side. So find the other yarn end and push all those other ends down inside, and you're going to cinch that up and just make sure nothing's wrinkled or weird. Give it a good tug, and then just the other yarn end is just going to kind of sit there while you sew through all the loops again. So you see the yarn's coming out of those top loops. It's going clockwise. So I'm going to make sure that I'm sewing around clockwise as well, so I don't accidentally undo the stitches and mess everything up. So just continue on, and once you get all the way around, give it a good pull. And then this time I'm just going to take both ends from both sides of the hat, and I'm going to tie them together in a really good firm knot. And this will hold your two layers of your hat together. So pull it really good, tie it again. You want a double knot. Then cut the cord so you just have a smaller tail to work with, and we're going to thread that onto our yarn needle. Then you're going to carefully insert the needle down into the top of the hat right next to where it's coming out. And then we're going to feed it through the two layers of the hat. So you're putting the yarn tails in between the two layers. And I have to put my hand inside there to make sure it doesn't accidentally go through to the other side. You don't want to see it. So then pull it through and then cut the excess and give it a little tug, and your ends will just disappear in the middle. And now you can give it a couple stretches to kind of get your stitches nice and neat. And your hat is pretty much done. Here's the striped side. And you can also flip it around to the other side. And here is the plain side. If you want to add a pom-pom, that will look super cute on this hat. And I have this fur pom-pom. I actually bought this on Etsy. You can take just one side of the cords that you used to tie them on. And I'm just going to make a temporary pom-pom for this. I'm temporarily adding it on since it is reversible. But just sew the one side down on one side of the hole at the top, and then just thread on the other side of the pom-pom holding cord. And then sew that down on the other side of the hole, and that way it's kind of really on there nice and secure instead of just going down right to the center. And then pull it to the inside, and I'm just going to tie a bow since I want this to be removable, and that is an option if you want. You can just tie a really good strong bow, maybe double knot it if you're worried it's going to come off, and then there you go. And that way you can easily flip it around if you want the other side to show. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed this beanie tutorial, and I hope you made one of your own. If you did enjoy this, please remember to leave a thumbs up. And here is another video that I think you will enjoy, so be sure to check that out, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye!